Hey everyone, and welcome to the first session, which is our revision toolkit. And we're going to be looking through 3 steps that you can use to plan your revision to improve your A-level biology grade. And we're going to be starting in about 2-3 minutes to get it all set up and ready. So one thing I'd recommend to do is, if you haven't already tried to locate the chat box, find that, because this is going to be as interactive as possible so that you can take part and gain the most value from this session. So if you aren't watching this already via the stream on YouTube, then make sure you've clicked the link. If you aren't got the email already via the stream, mute myself there, via the email, then that should take you straight to the YouTube link, and then you can actually enter into the chat box and take part. So let's just see. I can see 2 people in the chat box already at the moment. Just talk about what A-levels you're taking. I'll get involved as well. I did biology, chemistry and geography, and I did physics at AS. So those were my A-levels. I can see a biochem and maths there. Someone else there just chatting. Out of interest, where are people watching from this evening? So whereabouts are you all watching from this evening? Let's see. I've got biology and healthcare science. Bio, psychology, criminology, bio, psychology. And then we've got Stoke, London, Surrey, East London, South Africa. Wow, definitely going to be the furthest, I reckon. Rochester, West Yorkshire, sorry. Hampshire, Leeds, and Paris. Wow. Okay, quite a mix we've got then of where people are watching from this evening. Amazing. Okay, so we're going to get started very, very soon. Hertfordshire, just like me, I'm in Hertfordshire. So we're going to get started very, very soon. Just giving everyone a chance to log on, because I can already see we've only just hit 4:30 and I'm very punctual. So I was like, right, 4:30, let's begin. But I've realised now we've hit 4:30, and as soon as it hit 4:30, we got an instant 40 extra people. So let's give people a couple of minutes. I'll ask a couple of questions that have just come in. Will there be a replay? Yes, there is a replay. I'm streaming this via Zoom, but onto YouTube. So it's going to stay on YouTube, as do pretty much all of my lives that I do. If you go onto my page, there's an option to watch videos, but there's also another tab for lives. And that's where all of my past lives are saved, so you can watch them there. Anyone got their first assessment soon? I think some people have actually had them already, because I had a YouTube video this week or last week, which was preparing for your first A-level biology test. And some people told me they'd already done their first test. So I imagine some people have either done it or they've got one coming very soon. And one person I can see, and you won't be the only one, I can see one person saying they're actually here doing retakes. So they would have done them. Yes, someone had tests this week and last week. Got on this Wednesday. Okay, so whether you've just done a test or you're in year 13, you're resitting, you're a mature student, homeschooled, or you're learning independently, or you've done tests before, we're going to be looking at how to revise for tests. That is what this session is all about. The revision toolkit is 3 very straightforward steps to follow for how to plan your revision so that you are actually successful in improving every time you do a test. And it's not just what you should do. We're going to be looking at the ratio of time you should be spending on everything, as well as looking at auditing your own revision. So I'm going to jump into getting started now. So we're a couple of minutes in. So I'm just going to zoom out so we can see that a bit better. This session, I've said this a little bit of this already, like who is this for? This is for any student who might be struggling with ineffective revision and not making progress. So it doesn't matter what year you're in, whether you're taking A-levels for the first time, second time, whether in year 12, 13, if you find that you revise, but then you don't get the grades that you feel your revision should have reflected, or if you're just worried about doing your first round of tests, then this is for you. And what I'm going to be showing you and what you will learn in this session is how you can improve your existing revision strategy. And we're going to do that by looking at 3 simple steps. So by the end of our time together in this session, you're going to know 3 steps to follow to improve your revision strategy to make sure you do continually get higher grades. So that's what you're going to get from this session. I hope you've realized that's what it was about today and not something else. And you're thinking, I was not aware what I'd signed up for. But that is what we are doing in this session. I am going to do questions at the end. So just to make you aware, when I've got the PowerPoint projected up, I can't look at the chat box at the same time. And I will actually flick between the two every so often. So I'm going to ask you questions to make this as interactive as possible. But if there's a lot of chat going on, I might miss questions, which is why I'm saving about 10 minutes at the end where we will just go through questions. So in terms of how long the session will be, we will probably get onto the Q&A section in half an hour, maybe a little bit less. It depends how many questions we get or how many answers we get as we go through. So it'll probably finish just before 5 o'clock, just to give you, 5:30, just to give you a bit of an idea. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing throughout this session. We're going to start with quick fire, getting straight into some techniques that you can take away in action straight away at 5:30 to make progress immediately in our 20-minute revision planning party. So we're going to come on to that any minute now. We're then going to review how effective your revision currently is. And then I'm going to take you through those 3 simple steps. So step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm going to talk you through each step that you need to follow to get the max amount of progress to improve your grade. And then right at the end, I'm going to talk you through about an opportunity that you can have to work with me. So if you want to have me help you to revise and improve your A-level grade, I'm going to talk you through that opportunity. And as I said, Q&A, questions at the end. So let's jump into our 20-minute revision planning party. Now, we're not literally going to spend 20 minutes now revising and planning, but this is something I want you to have a go at after today's session. And it's key to try and do it tonight, because otherwise you might not do it. And it's such a quick and easy, effective strategy to get started with your revision. So the 20-minute revision planning party is a 20-minute activity where you're going to plan your revision, and to try and make it less boring, you need to pump out some tunes. As you can tell from this image here, and if you have been following me for a while, you know I am a huge Swiftie. So for my 20-minute revision planning party, which the equivalent for me would be 20-minute work week planning party, I'd be pumping out the Taylor Swift tunes. But pick whatever music that's going to get you motivated, playing that for 20 minutes to make it a party element with the music. And on post-it notes, what you need to do is write down what topics you need to revise and some activities that you want to do. So that's step 1, just on post-it notes. If you don't have post-it notes, you might be able to do this on a tablet or computer with sticky notes, or you can just do it a piece of paper, cut it up, and then you'll be able to move it around in a minute. So step 1 is you need to write down all the topics that you need to revise and activities. Now, I'm assuming that if you're in year 12, you've probably got a biological molecules test coming up at some point soon, which is why I've written down the biological molecules here for some of the ones that you might be expected to revise for the test. And then I've said review notes, review theory, exam questions, flashcards, blurting for some ideas of what you need to do. So that's step 1 of your revision party, which will probably only take 5 minutes, if that. The next step is now where we are going to arrange those post-it notes to create a schedule for the day, or at least organize what you're going to do each day. So I've only got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but if you've got a whole week, you'd have all the days of the week. If you've got longer than that, carry on. And what you then need to do is those post-it notes that you had, start arranging them just to stick on what activity you're going to do for which topics. And that might mean you need multiple carbohydrates. You can see here I've got 2. But the idea here would be you probably start with reviewing the theory, then testing the theory, then exam questions. But that is then in 20 minutes, you've got your revision plan sorted. So it's just a quick, easy way to get started planning your revision. And you can do this based on the 3 simple steps that we're then going to learn in today's session. So as a little incentive to get started, anyone who does this 20-minute revision planning party after this session, please take a photo or a video of you doing it. And if you post it to social media, I'm actually going to tell you about this at the end as well. If you post to social media, you in your revision party or showing the post-it notes, whatever it might be, with a certain hashtag and tagging me, then anyone that does it before 9 p.m. tonight, I'm going to put all those names into a raffle, and one of you will be winning some of my resources for free. So just as a way to get boosting that revision. So that's a 20-minute revision party, step one, in terms of getting motivated. But let's go back to what I said then. We need to start with thinking about how effective is your revision currently, do you think? And I'm going to bring you back into focusing now, making sure you're listening, going to that chat box. Can you write a number between 1 and 10 to show me how effective you think your revision is currently? Where 1 is absolutely awful, you have no idea what you're doing, and 10 is you have already got it sussed, you've got perfect revision, and you know if you keep doing that, you're going to get an A star. Okay, let's see. Okay. So far our range is 3 up to 8. Most people have said either 5 or 7, actually. 5, 6, and 7 is quite common. Now, one thing to bear in mind with this is whenever people have to rate themselves, you tend to get 2 types of people. People who will underrate themselves and always say they're worse than they actually are, and people who always overrate themselves and say they're better than they actually are. It's quite hard to gauge how effective your revision is unless I give you some criteria. So we'll come back to that question at the end and see if you change your mind once I give you criteria to judge your revision by. But it's interesting to see that most of you are either midway or you think you're slightly towards the better end, so like 6s or 7s, but everyone's acknowledged there's room for improvement. So hopefully I'll be able to help you with that in today's session. Following the revision toolkit, 3 simple steps. I want to get straight to the point now in telling you those 3 steps. It's not a secret that I'm keeping. We're jumping straight into what the 3 steps are. And we're going to be looking at how you do each step and how long you should be doing each step for. So these are the 3 key steps to follow for every single assessment you have, no matter what the subject. The first step is you have to understand the information. The second step is you have to remember the information and know all the key marking points. And the third step is you have to practice the exam technique. Now, this might sound obvious, and I kind of hope it does sound obvious, because obviously you have to understand it, remember it, and know the exam technique. But the big thing is the answer to these questions. So first one is, do you focus on all 3 steps before every test? So the 3 steps were understanding. Do you invest time making sure you understand the information? Do you then invest time making sure you remember it? And then do you invest time doing exam techniques, exam questions? So that's question 1 to the chat box. Do you think you currently cover all 3 steps before every test? Let's see. So some of you are saying yes, they think they do. Okay, so it's looking good. Most of you say yes. Okay, interesting. We're getting some of you that say no, you don't now. And what's interesting is the reasons that you're giving me. So I've got no because of lack of time. Some of you say you feel like you mainly do the second, third, and you don't do the understanding. One of you have said you don't do enough of the third one, which is the exam practice. I usually don't do the first step as much because you get too impatient with it. Love your honesty. I focus, but I don't split the time equally. Okay, so a mix there. Second question was, do you split your time equally between each step? So do you spend equal amounts of time on understanding, remembering, and then practicing with the exam technique? Is it an equal split? No, some people say no, mostly do 2 and 3. Sometimes I skip number 2 a bit and memorize it through doing exam questions. I don't spend enough time on the exam questions, which is the practicing. No, I mainly do exam practice. No, I spend more time on understanding and revising. Yeah, and this is going to be different for everyone, obviously, because you're all different people. But you shouldn't actually spend equal time on all three. The ideal split is 20% of your revision time should be on understanding, 40% of your time should be on remembering, 40% of your time should be on doing exam questions. So that's the approximate split. This might vary slightly from topic to topic, because if you've got a test on a topic that you know you have really struggled to understand in the first place, then for that test, you might be investing more time in the understanding to begin with. But generally speaking, particularly by the time you get to your mocks and your final A levels, the least amount of time should be on understanding, because hopefully you've understood it from doing your lessons, homework set by the teachers already. And it might just be a few of the more challenging topics or parts you've forgotten that you need to review and understand again. 40% of the time should be remembering, and this is doing active recall strategies. We're going to go through examples of all of these steps. So if you're thinking, well, what should I do to understand or remember? That's what I'm going to do throughout this session, tell you exactly what you can do for all of these steps. And then practice, that's your exam questions. So one of the biggest reasons people who do put the effort in, they put the time in, but they still don't see much progress, is either they're not doing all three of these steps, or they're not doing all three of these steps in the correct proportions for their needs. And for most students' needs, this is the proportion that you would need to do. So if you don't invest the time in making sure you understand it in the first place, then what's the point in remembering it? Because you're just remembering words that you have no idea what they mean. So you have to understand it before bothering to remember it. And then there's no point jumping onto exam questions before you can remember the information, because if you get to the questions where it's describe this process, well, if you don't remember it or understand it, what on earth are you going to write for that question? And then you're just going to feel demoralized because you're doing an exam question and you haven't got a clue, and you'll feel rubbish. So you need to make sure you've understood and remembered it before you then go on to the exam questions. So that is our 3 simple steps to follow. Those 3 steps in those proportions, that is it. It's no big secret, but that's getting the information out now straight away. But what we're now going to go through is what sorts of things could you do to understand for 20% of the time, remembering for 40%, and then practice for 40% of the time as well. So understanding, that is our step 1, spending about 20% of your revision time on your understanding. And the sorts of things you might do to help you understand, which I'm guessing you do already. If you're here with me this evening, I'm guessing you know that I have a YouTube channel. So Miss Estruch Biology YouTube channel, that is one thing. Or obviously there are other YouTube channels available, but I'm going to recommend myself for A-level biology. So for understanding the information, you could be watching YouTube videos like my ones. You could be reading your class notes. You could be reading your textbook. You could be reading through revision notes. And again, I've got a photo there of my revision notes that you could be using. But this is what I mean by understanding. This step is quite passive, meaning you're just taking in the information rather than testing it, because you're going to need to either watch or listen or read to try and get your head around and process the facts. So that's the sort of thing to do for your understanding. And we're going to do an example. We're going to jump to phagocytosis. The reason I've picked phagocytosis is I know that I'm going to have students here who are all sorts of different stages in their A-level. And we're going to squeeze in a little bit of revision, understanding phagocytosis. And because this is a topic you do at GCSE, whether you're in year 12 or year 13, you should have some knowledge of this topic. And if you are in year 12, you're going to be learning this soon, so it'll be helpful. And you've probably just learned about cells, so you know a bit about lysosomes, which come up in this. So phagocytosis, if we were trying to understand this information to start with, perhaps you'd be using one of my YouTube videos where I've got the slides and I talk over it, or you might be using some of my notes. And we'd be going through this information. What I personally like to do is highlight the key points as I'm reading it. If I've got a paper copy or if you've got a digital set of notes, you can highlight as well. Or if you're watching YouTube videos, you might want to make notes of the key points or processes. You've got your own set of notes. So phagocytosis, some of the key facts. A phagocyte is a macrophage, which is a type of white blood cell. And it's called a phagocyte because it carries out phagocytosis. So macrophages are white blood cells that engulf and destroy. A phagocyte is an example of that. And you find these cells in your blood, but also in your tissues, and they're responsible in protecting you in the non-specific response. And what that means is it doesn't matter which pathogen it is or which non-self cell it is, meaning anything that's in your body that's detected as not one of your body cells is going to trigger the same response every time to destroy that non-self cell. So whatever it is, phagocytosis will be triggered, whether it is a pathogen, this is the case for cancer cells, cells that aren't naturally from your body. So for example, a transplant, it could be a cell on your transplanted organ. And this is the process of phagocytosis. So if I was trying to understand the process of phagocytosis, I'd probably draw this one out as a flow diagram because it's quite a lengthy process and you've got stages that follow. But some people might prefer to do it like we've got here as a picture. So you can actually watch a YouTube video, draw yourself out a picture and annotate what's happening at each stage. So there's different ways that you can try and process the information and understand it. I always like to highlight or put in bold the key points as well. And if you are using your class notes or my videos, then I emphasize the key marking points, and I do that in my notes as well. And I assume your class teacher probably does that also. So phagocytes, as we said, they are found in the blood and the tissues, and any chemical or debris released by pathogens or abnormal cells or non-body cells, non-self cells that is, those chemicals will attract the phagocytes that are within your blood or tissues to the location of that pathogen. Then on the pathogen, there are receptors, and you have these receptor binding points on the surface of the phagocytes that can attach to those receptors on the pathogen. And when that happens, that is then what triggers the phagocytes start to change shape. The cell changes shape and moves around the pathogen and engulfs it. And once it has then engulfed it, which basically means surrounds and encases and traps it within the phagocyte, it forms a temporary vacuole, which is known as a phagosome vesicle. So that phagosome is now trapping the pathogen inside of the phagocyte. The next step is, we're over here now, step 5. A lysosome, and this is one of the organelles that you would have just learned about in year 12, lysosomes, which are sacs of digestive enzymes. A lysosome, which is shown here in blue, is going to fuse with that temporary vacuole, the phagosome. It releases its contents into the phagosome, and its contents are digestive enzymes known as lysozymes. And those will hydrolyze the pathogen, destroy the pathogen, and there we go, pathogen is killed. Useful substances will then be absorbed and used by the cell, and the antigens placed on its surface. So that is our little demonstration of understanding, and we're focusing there specifically on phagocytosis, but the key thing is just showing you the sorts of things you could do to understand. So watching the YouTube videos, creating a flow diagram, or if you prefer diagrams to learn from, draw a diagram and annotate it, or you might have just written it out as a set of notes and highlight and underlined, or it might just be reading something through a few times or watching something through a few times. But 20% of your time should be invested in making sure you do understand the biology in the first place. So once we've then understood the biology, that's when we can then move on to remembering the information. And this is where I said it needs to be active recall, and 40% of your revision should be active recall. And what we mean by active recall is you're doing something to test yourself. So testing, can you remember the facts? So you shouldn't be reading or watching videos for this, because that's not testing you remember it, that's testing you understand it. Just to bring you back into the chat box, making sure we're all still focused and listening and you haven't wandered off somewhere and left me. What sorts of things would count as active recall? I mean, obviously flashcards, that's up on the screen. What sorts of things do you do for active recall when you're revising? And it might be flashcards is what you do. So yeah, by all means, flashcards. I also love flashcards. Blurting's a great one. Doing mind maps, a few of you do. Yeah. Blurting, writing stuff out from memory, which is basically blurting. Blurting, flashcards, quizzes. So the two most common ones are blurting and flashcards. Teaching a friend, yeah, that's a good one. Mind maps. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, lots of good ideas there of what you could be doing to actively test, do you understand the information? So I'm going to talk you through just one example, which is flashcards. So flashcards, I personally love. That is why I sell flashcards, because I think they are one of the best revision tools. And so I sell my ones, which are based on all of the key marking points for the theory, for AQA and OCR I have at the moment. Those are the two that I have at the moment. But active recall, you can make your own flashcards as well. These are a great tool for testing what you do and don't remember. And the more you test yourself, that is what will improve your long-term memory of those facts, of those key marking points. And you can optimize your time, because a lot of you said at the start, you don't get through all three of the revision strategies that you should do because you run out of time. So using flashcards correctly and effectively will not only improve your memory, but it's a very efficient way of revising if it's done properly. So I'm going to quickly talk you through the lightness system, which is a way to use flashcards efficiently and to improve your memory. So the lightness system, you might do this already and you just didn't know that's what it was called, but it's a way to combine spaced repetition, which means spacing out when you revise, but repeatedly revising something. And it's a good way to improve your focus. So spaced repetition, as I said, smart approach to using your flashcards. It's all about spacing out when you revise and repeatedly going over a topic. The improved focus point is from the fact that the lightness system method helps you focus on what you are struggling with, and therefore you're not constantly going over the bits that you know, because yes, that is very comforting to constantly go over the bits that you know and feel like, oh yeah, I know that is great, I'm doing really well. But if you're doing that, you're actually wasting your time. You need to be spending your time on the parts that you don't feel comfortable with and that you aren't remembering as well. That is the most efficient use of your time. Even if it doesn't feel very comfortable and you feel like you're failing when you do that, that is the way to make maximum progress, focusing on what you're struggling with. So the lightness system, how this addresses this is you need 4 piles basically. And some apps actually have this system inbuilt into them. I think Anki might have this inbuilt within it. But 4 piles. We've got pile 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 is labeled daily. Number 2 is labeled every other day. Number 3 is labeled twice per week. Number 4 is labeled once per week. You would have your whole pack of flashcards that you're going to test yourself on for a particular topic, for the test you might have coming up. And what you would then do is go through your flashcards. And if you get a question correct, you would move it on to every other day. If you get it wrong, you'd put it on daily. And so then what that's telling you is all the cards that are on your daily pile, you need to test yourself on those daily. The ones on the every other day, you already got it correct. So you don't need to look at them as often. So you then do it every other day. But what you can then do is when you get to the every other day, I think I might have skipped one of the instructions just here. If you get it correct, that one would then move up to twice per week. If you get it wrong, it goes back to number 1 and you then have to start doing it daily. Then when you get to the twice per week, if you've got it correct, you then have to look at that card once per week. But if you get it wrong, it drops right back to the daily. So in following this method, it's ensuring that you are reviewing the ones that you're getting wrong every day, and the ones that you are repeatedly getting correct, you look at less and less often because you already remember those. So here's your start point. You begin by reviewing your whole pack of flashcards for a topic. For every correct answer, as we said, you move it on to the next box. For every incorrect answer, it goes back to day 1 or box 1, which is daily. And then as the cards move up, your intervals between reviewing them increases, helping you remember more effectively. But you are still repeatedly revising. You've got the space time between them, but the time between them is shorter if you're not remembering it. It's longer if you are remembering it. So that is the lightness system. You can tweak the timings of those intervals depending how soon your test is. If you only have 1 week until your test, then you might want to make daily, twice daily, every other day, once a day, twice a week might be 3 times a week, once a week might be twice a week. So you can alter those intervals if needed. So that's one of the methods for active recall. I can see a couple of questions, just to let you know, I'm going to do questions at the end. So keep hold of your questions for now. Then once you've spent 40% of your time actively testing yourself that you remember, whether that is flashcards, so something like this, the lightness system, whether it's blurting, whether it's using short answer questions, testing yourself. I've got that active recall workbook, which you can use, which is lots of short answer questions, filling in the gap activities to really test, do you know and remember the information? Then you can move on to the practice, which is your exam technique practice, looking at exam questions. So here we have an example. We've got describe how a phagocyte destroys a pathogen present in the blood. And then we have to give 2 types of cells other than pathogens that can stimulate an immune response. Let's have a go at this question. Starting with 1A, because obviously it's the first one. So into the chat box, some key ideas you would say for describe how a phagocyte destroys a pathogen present in the blood. So it's putting in some of the things that we're thinking for that one. And I'm going to hop over to be able to see it. Okay, I can see one key term coming in to do with engulfing. See some others that might be coming in. Engulf, yep, so another key term linked to engulfing. Vesicle, so the phagosome, lysosome, and lysozyme. So I can see lots of key terms coming in and key structures that people are remembering. Let's have a look. We'll come and have a look at what those 3 marks were. Just so you know, in terms of exam technique and practice, the sorts of things to be focusing on when you're doing the questions for practice is paying close attention to command words, number 1. So the command word here, it's going to get my highlights out to indicate these, is, oops, nope, let's get that a bit thicker, is describe. And describe is where you're saying what you see or literally saying what happens. So describe how you're given an account of the events. So you're saying how a phagocyte destroys a pathogen in the blood. And it's 3 marks. So you're looking for at least 3 bullet points. And for AQA, you can bullet point these answers. That's absolutely fine. And then once you do this question, in terms of your exam practice, you need to be thinking about things like, right, it's 3 marks. So I should be spending approximately 3 minutes on this question. So check, is your timing on point? Are you doing at least 3 bullet points for a 3-mark question? Am I paying close attention to the command word and then checking the mark scheme afterwards? Is your clarity of answer? So are you including the key terms enough and correctly? And if not, then you need to make a note at the understanding stage again. So notes you might have or flashcards, or mind maps you might have made, just to add in or highlight those key marking points that have come up in your exam questions that you weren't aware of from your understanding or remembering stage. Next question, we've got give 2 types of cells. So the command word here is just give. So basically you have to name 2 types of cells other than pathogens that can stimulate an immune response. Now, I only briefly said this in this session. So let's see if anyone knows these or remembers any examples that I said. You can see a couple have come in. So abnormal cells, antigen presenting cell, non-self cells, cancer cells, cells from other organisms. Right, let's take a look. So for the one we just did, we've got cells from other organisms or transplants, abnormal or cancer cells, infected cells by, or say virus cell, sorry, infected by a virus. So as yourself is infected, but they said they'd accept antigen presenting cells. Some of you did say that. Going back to the previous one, describe how phagocyte destroys a pathogen. So it engulfs it. It forms a phagosome and fuses with the lysosome. So you need both of those ideas for that mark. And then finally, the lysozymes digest or hydrolyze the pathogen. So what I'd take from this is I'd then look at this mark scheme, go back to maybe my flashcards or notes and just think for this topic, that's literally bullet pointing what they wanted. So I'm going to go back and highlight the word engulf, highlight the word phagosome, highlight the word lysosome, and digest or hydrolyze, because those were the marks that came up on the mark scheme. So I'm going to highlight it so I know those are key marking points. Same idea here, naming cells. Go back to your notes and check, did I literally have a bullet point list of which cells can trigger or stimulate an immune response? Because that's an exam question that came up. So I need to know that list. You could turn that into a flashcard. So that's how you can use exam questions to improve your exam technique, looking at the command words, how you structure your answer, but also how you can then use the mark scheme to reflect back on the earlier stages of your revision, which was the understanding and remembering, making sure these key marking points you have in your notes in a way that's going to be easy for you to remember. So the key takeaways then, we said it's 3 steps to revision. You need to be understanding, you need to be remembering, and you need to be practicing. And you should be doing it in this proportion of time. And I said I'd come back to that question I asked you at the start. We had to rate your revision, but I didn't give you any criteria to rate it against. So I just said, how effective is it? So I'm going to ask that question again. Now we've gone through, those are 3 steps you should follow. These are the approximate proportions, and those are some examples of activities that count as understanding, remembering, and practicing. How effective do you think your revision is currently, based on that criteria? So now we've got more 5s and 6s. I don't know what literally everyone put the first time round, but as a whole, let me see if it looks similar or slightly lower. I think some of you are still stating the same. Some of you are maybe slightly lower. But either way, hopefully, now you know those are 3 steps to follow, how you do each step, and the proportion. That's the key bit that often people weren't aware of, is the proportion of time you should spend on each one and how you should be splitting it to make the maximum amount of progress. So those are our key takeaways. But I did say right at the end, I was going to talk to you about how you can learn with me and also answer your questions, because I can see people have been asking questions about the replay, about making flashcards, turning up late. Can you still watch it? I'll answer all of those questions very shortly. So the opportunity then to work with me. So if you would like to do your revision with me, so if you find my YouTube videos helpful, if you found today's session helpful, I really hope you did, because I know you gave up time to come along today. If you find any of the resources that I've got helpful and you might have seen, then this opportunity that I'm going to talk to you about will be perfect, because it'll give you the chance to revise with me. It'll give you the chance to basically have me as your live virtual teacher. You'll also be able to revise with me and other examiners for AQA and OCR. You will get digital resources of mine, and you get to be part of a supportive community. And if you do follow me on Instagram, you would have been seeing me already today talking about the Biology Study Club, which is relaunching today and for this week. So this study club has been live for over a year, but this summer I spent a lot of time completely revamping and improving the Biology Study Club. So it's had the most mega glow up compared to last year because I've taken all the feedback on board from students and made some massive improvements. So the Biology Study Club, let me tell you a bit about what this club is. It's a membership. And it's to help students just like you, because you've turned up today. So it's students just like you through having 10 live tuition style lessons every month. You'll be part of a community. So it's an exclusive community where there's a study chat room that can help you motivate each other, not feel so isolated and lonely in your revision, support one another. You get quick responses from me because it's a study chat room, but there's also an app. So unlike on Instagram, where I get loads of messages and some of them go into like some dark section of Instagram where it's all hidden from me. If you're in the community, it comes straight to my phone and then I'll reply. So you get much more rapid responses from me. I also do marking your work every month. So you can submit essays or other work to be marked, get feedback. There's a vault of biology lessons, study skills lessons. There's free flashcards. Well, within the community or within the club, you get included my flashcards, so you don't have to make your own. Some of you are asking how to make them. If you're in the club, don't bother. You get my flashcards already, as well as the study tracker, my exam paper analysis, where I've gone through every past paper and looked at the number of times different topics have come up and on which year group, and as well other resources. So things like I've got a practical booklet and much, much more. So this is just an idea of what the study club involves, as well as the potential to actually get every single one of my digital products, online courses for free. There is a point system in the study club. The more you talk in the chat room, you earn points, and every set point, so when you get to 10 or 100 or 50, it earns you one of my resources, basically. So you could, if you're at the start of year 12 now and you've never bought something of mine, if you're in the study club and you just talk lots, you could potentially win every single one of my products for free just by being active in the community. So I asked my students how they've found the club this year. And this is one of the testimonials I took from what they said. And they've said that they've loved how each live is structured to allow us, so the students, to answer different structure exam questions. It really does focus on exam technique. The explanation each of the teachers gives helps to break down the content-heavy concepts that there are in A-level biology. And she loves that she's got the flashcards included as well, and the topic videos. Now, just point out the reason she said the teachers, I am one of the teachers, but I have also got another AQA teacher who's been teaching for over 15 years, and she's an AQA examiner. And I've got an OCR teacher who, again, has been teaching for over 10, 15 years, and she's a lead OCR examiner. So they're highly qualified, highly experienced teachers that also teach in the study club. So just as a summary then of everything that I said, this includes, you get access to 10 live lessons per month. You can submit your work to be marked each month. You get pre-recorded lessons. You get access to some of my resources. There's the study community, and you can actually win every resource for free if you are active in the community. So the most common question I tend to get at this point is, how much does it cost? And I've just looked at the chat box, and the two questions I've got are, how much does it cost? So the study club, everything that I've just said there would be worth £500 a month, because you're getting 10 tuition lessons, and tuition typically costs now, oh, here's B, she's coming in because she wants to say hello. She can't resist a bit of biology teaching. Typically one-to-one tuition would cost you at least £50 an hour. Even if it's group tuition, you're probably looking at least £20 to £30 an hour now, if you were to have it from a teacher who has that level of experience and is an examiner. As well as the cost of all of those resources, it would be £500 a month. Now, obviously, I'm not going to charge you £500 a month, because that would be outrageous. So you can get access to the Biology Study Club for £50 a month, which at first glance, that might still sound like a big ticket item. And I appreciate for some people that might be unaffordable, which is why I always provide lots of free content on YouTube and Instagram as well. But £50 a month, you can get the equivalent of 8 hours of tuition, because it's 10 classes, but some of them are half an hour. It's 8 hours worth of live tuition with extremely qualified teachers who are examiners. We've all been examiners this year as well. So we are current examiners for the exam boards for £50 a month. So for the equivalent of paying for one tuition lesson, you actually get an entire month's worth of tuition. But not only that, you have the whole bank of pre-recorded lessons. You have access to having your work marked. You get all of these resources of mine free, which normally cost. You get a study community with other students and with the teachers, so you can get answers to questions outside of normal school hours. And you have the possibility to earn all of my resources for free just by being active in the community. Now, that I know is still quite a lot of money for some people. So that's why I actually offer a tier system, meaning there's different options you can pick from. First of all, to try and see what suits your needs the most and maybe what you're able to afford. So what I've been describing to you so far is the top tier, the platinum tier, £50 a month. You're basically paying for 1 hour of tuition, but you're getting 8 hours of tuition, plus all of those other resources. If that's a bit too much, though, for £30 a month, it's one step down. You still get 7 live lessons a month, but you won't get access to the replays and you won't get the submit your work. But those are the only two things that you lose. You lose 3 of the lessons per month. You don't get the replays and you don't get to submit your work. But you might think 7 lessons is fine for me and £30 is more affordable. So for £30, you're getting 7 lessons a month, which is still incredible along with all of those. If that is still way too much and you're thinking you probably don't have the ability to commit to live lessons and you're more interested in the community and the resources, then there's a silver membership. This one is quite different though, because you don't get any live lessons and you don't get any recordings of lessons. So you don't get any of the teaching side. For the silver membership, you just get the resources. So the study tracker, the timetable, the flashcards, the exam paper analysis spreadsheet, and you get the community, but you do still have the opportunity to earn all of my resources for free. So there's different tiers to see what might suit your needs in terms of progress. Obviously, I think the best value for money is the 30 or the 50, because those are the ones where you get the live lessons for significantly cheaper than tuition, but it's whatever your needs are. Now, I did want to point out that I said this is relaunch week. So for this week only, it's going to stay at those launch week prices. As of Monday, they are going up to their usual price, which is £60 for platinum, 40 for gold, 18 for silver. But if you sign up this week, your price will be fixed forever at £50. So this time next year, if I increase my prices, don't know if I would or not, but let's say I did, your price will never increase. Yours will stay at 50 forever or stay at 30 forever. And because you've been to this webinar, you will be getting an email after this session. If you sign up via that email, you will also get all of my biological mind maps and diagram testing your knowledge activities emailed to you for free as a little bonus for staying to the end for this session and for signing up, not only in launch week, but after coming to the webinar. So you get that little bonus thrown in also. So I did say I'd save some time for questions. I'll put that information back up, because there might be questions linked to that. There might be general revision questions. I wanted to remind you as well about the social media prize. So if you do that 20-minute revision planning party after this session and take a photo or video before 9 p.m. tonight, post it to Instagram, and you need to tag me, so I know you've done it, then you'll be entered into the draw to win my A-level notes, whether that's the AQA, OCR or CIE. Those are the only 3 exam boards I have. Just bear in mind, if you do have a private account, I won't see it. So you'll have to take a screenshot and then send me a message. But if it's not a private account and you tag me, then I'll be able to see it as well. Oh, okay. I know I've just talked at you for a long time there. So we're going to go to the Q&A section, whether this is questions about the Biology Study Club or whether it's questions about anything we've gone through today. But I am sticking to only answering questions about either the Biology Study Club or what we've covered today. Any other general types of questions, that's not what this session is for right now. So I'm going to stick to those. So, questions. I did see some about the replay earlier. So this is going to be on my YouTube channel. So you'll get an email with the link afterwards to rewatch it. Also, it's going to be saved and stay on my YouTube channel. So that's where you'll be able to find this live session. Other questions. When do you run the lessons? So for the Biology Study Club, the OCR lessons are currently on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. The AQA lessons are on Wednesdays at, I think it's 5:30 p.m. Let me double check this. And then the other session is weekly exam questions. So I do weekly exam questions, and that is on Thursdays at 5 p.m. So yeah, OCR is Tuesdays at 7. AQA is Wednesdays at 5:30. And the exam questions is 5 p.m. every Thursday. Now, although the sessions are stated as AQA or OCR, both of the teachers who do AQA and OCR have experience with both exam boards. So they are able to teach the content. Sorry, this is Bee's tail, my cat wagging over here. If you're wondering with a blurred background what that is, what they will do is they'll ask at the start of the lesson, who do we have? What exam board are you? And then even if you're not taking OCR, you can go to the OCR one just to have that content taught again, get a deeper understanding of it. And if it's something that you're then being taught that doesn't come up on AQA, you'll be notified in the lesson. So that's when the sessions are. Let me see. Someone said, how do you sign up? Now, you will be getting an email. As I said, you'll get an email coming in after this session, but I'm just trying to find the link now. So if you did want to, okay, here it is. Oh, B. She really is wanting attention. She's clearly thinking I've been talking to you all for too long. Maybe you're thinking the same thing. But here we go. Here is the link to get the, let me just double check I've definitely sent the right one. That is to get the platinum plus the free biological molecules. And if you want the gold, which is fewer live lessons, but it's cheaper, this is the link. I'm just putting it into the chat. That's the link for the gold one. So that's how you sign up. But you will also get an email afterwards. What do you do in the live sessions? Okay, good question. So in the live sessions, it's basically like a mini lesson. So you get a PowerPoint, which, by the way, all the PowerPoints are saved on a Google Drive, so you can download and you have access to those PowerPoints as well to use as a set of notes if you want. Any exam questions that are used, you also get access to those. You get the resources from the lesson. So in the lessons, it's a bit like we've got here. This is a very similar format. It'd be a projected PowerPoint going through a particular topic, which you're told every week what the topics are going to be. So you can choose whether you want to come to it live or watch the recording. The teacher will then, whether it's me or one of the other two, they will talk you through the information, but they will do it as if it's a lesson. So they'll be asking you questions. There's a chat box, no cameras for students, no mics. It is just chat box for you. But you'll be asked questions. So you are being tested throughout. We encourage you to take part because then you're going to get the most value. And everyone that's ever been in this club is such a really hardworking, supportive student. Because if you think the kind of students who want this kind of support are going to be ones that are willing to support you, motivate you, and are really focused. So the chat box is always really supportive. There's no judgment. People have a guess. If they got it wrong, they have another go. And then there's exam questions as well. So we've done some that are based on theory, some on practicals, some on maths. You get a schedule of what's coming up. But if there's a topic that you would like to see that isn't scheduled, all you have to do is message the teacher and they'll plan it. So it is very much based on live feedback. If you want to see more of a particular type of lesson or a particular topic, as long as you ask the teachers, they can put that in the schedule. So that was one of the questions. OCRA, yep. So it's an OCRA teacher and an AQA teacher. Is the study club relevant for year 13? So the study club is meant to be relevant for 12s and 13s. The live lessons are a mixture of the two. So half of the lessons will be year 12, half of them will be year 13. So if you're a year 13 student, what that means is you will have lessons that are relevant to what you're currently learning, and lessons that are going to be relevant to helping you remember year 12 content. So it's a good way to help you remember the year 12 whilst learning year 13. Now, if you're a year 12 student, yes, that does mean potentially only half the lessons this year are relevant, but you get access to all the replays, so you can then rewatch them over the summer, rewatch them next year, or you can even join them anyway, get a head start into year 13. So it's relevant for both years. Do I teach AQA students? So my role in the club is I do all of the exam question sessions. I do the mark your work. But both people that are the teachers are teachers that I personally know, that I have either worked with or did my teacher training with, and I know them very well. So I only work with people that I fully trust and know that they teach similar to me, and I know that I can vouch for their quality. Let's see. Is it relevant to the Edexcel spec, and is AQA similar to Edexcel? All exam boards will have some level of overlap between them. So, for example, the fundamentals like biological molecules, cells, respiration, photosynthesis, the nervous system, there are some topics that are going to be across all exam boards, pretty much identical detail. What they vary in is there'll be little bits where you go into different levels of detail. So if you don't do AQA or you don't do OCR, then it's not a perfect match. However, the majority of it will be the same as your exam board. And in terms of the theory, you'll still be learning the theory. You still get access to the community, but not a perfect match as it would be if you were AQA or OCR. How big are the class sizes typically? That completely depends on how many of you sign up today. It has absolutely varied throughout the year when I've done this. So the last few weeks, we had one where only one student turned up to the live. So they got one-to-one tuition. And we had some where it was 4 or 5 students. Last year, I think the biggest class size I had was 40. And the most popular ones were the night before the A-level exams. I always do a extra bonus lesson. So the night before every single A-level, I do an extra hour lesson for just people in the study club. So you're getting live help the night before the exams. Those ones, as you can imagine, were very popular. But it does vary because some people decide that they can't attend the live, so they watch the recording. Some people prefer to have the resources, or they just pick and choose which lessons. So it does completely vary on the class sizes. It's ranged from 1 to 40. Will I make flashcards for CIE? Yeah, I do intend to at some point. Does each exam board get 8 hours worth of sessions? No. So the way it's split is 4 hours are AQA, 2 hours are OCR, and then 2 hours are exam technique, so exam questions. So there is more AQA than OCR. The justification behind that is AQA is the most taken exam board in the UK by a long way. So that's why I put most of the lessons as AQA, because most students take AQA. And then the next most popular exam board is OCR. That's why that's the next one I picked. I know that's really frustrating for those of you that take EdXLB and the Welsh exam board, because hardly anyone takes those. So that's why you don't find many resources, I'm afraid. But like I said, there's quite a lot of similarities. Edexcel and the Welsh exam board are quite similar to OCR. So they're similar to those ones. Do you do tests in the club? Do you know what? I don't, but that's a really good idea. And what I'm open to in the club is I always ask students, if there's something you want in the club, then just ask, because you might find that I can do it. And something like that, if you wanted tests, then I could easily send out in like the monthly newsletter, because you get a monthly newsletter, by the way, as well as I look through the news and give you a summary of all the biology in the news to help with interviews and things, or just out of interest. If you wanted tests, that's easily something I could do, would be create tests. Here's the answers, just so you can see your progress. Is it worth joining if it's mostly AQA? It depends what exam board you are and what you're looking for. As I said, there's a lot of overlap between the subjects. If you're needing help understanding the information, then yes, I'd say it's worth it. If you're looking for access to exam technique and resources and a study community, then yes, it's still worth it. If you literally want something that is specific for your exam board and you don't want any other information outside of that, then no, it's probably not going to be helpful. But in that case, you'd be looking at one-to-one tuition, which you're then looking at something that costs 10 times the price. So it's up to you. If that's feasible for you, then fine, go for one-to-one tuition with someone that's specific for your exam board. But for a tenth of the price, something that almost fits perfectly, then you could go for this as the option. Okay. Someone said, oh, I'm asking because I'm resitting and doing self-study, so I want to know how I improve. Okay, so yeah, that's actually a really interesting one. I need to write this down somewhere. I'll just try and remember. This is me putting it into my memory. Put tests in the club, because that's actually a really good question, because a lot of people in the club are either resit, homeschooled, or mature students, because it's a way to have like a school community online. Do we do different topics for each session, or do we do the same topic for the whole month? No. So for example, this month we did in week 1 photosynthesis for both exam boards. We then did respiration. We then did cells. I think this week we've got exchange surfaces and the nitrogen cycle. So it's different topics. At the moment, we've been picking it based on what students are most likely to be taught at the moment. But that's because we're waiting for more students to join and start putting in requests. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else I've missed. Sounds much better than my current tutor, which is £60 per month for 2 sessions of tutoring and no marking. I mean, I know I also do one-to-one tuition and I charge a lot for it, which is why I try and give alternatives all the time. I try and give free options, because I know some people can't afford to buy any kind of resource. So I always have the free options, like sessions like this, YouTube, different resources I have for free on my website. And then I have the intermediate things, but one-to-one tuition, it is very expensive, which is why I wanted to give this as an alternative where you kind of get access to similar things from one-to-one tuition, but for a more affordable price for most people. Is it worth me joining as Edexcel? I've already done AQA year 12, but I'm resitting and now doing Edexcel. Like I said, it depends what you're trying to gain from the sessions. If you are willing to check the specification for Edexcel carefully, so when you see a scheduled lesson, let's say you saw it was a nitrogen cycle, if you were going to join, then I'd recommend you have your specification for the nitrogen cycle with you in the lesson. So as you're being taught, you can check, is this something that I need to know? What are the differences? So it would still be worth it, but it would be more work for you, because for each session, I do recommend you have your spec with you in the lesson so you can check that what you do and don't need to know. So like I said, it is more work for you, but it's a lot cheaper than one-to-one tuition. So it's up to you whether that payoff is worth it. Right, let's see. Any other questions? So yeah, someone else also self-teaching. Loads of people in the club are self-teaching. And that's also why they really like the study community, because you've gone from maybe being at school, now you're resitting, or you've always been homeschooled or you're a mature student, and you just don't have that like group of friends and students like you would do in your sixth form common room. So instead you've got the study chat, people support, people share ideas, and in your lessons, instead of just learning by yourself, you've got a group of people. And like I said, everyone in the club has always been so lovely, because it's like-minded students that really want to do well, and everyone's really positive and supportive of each other. So it's a really nice environment to learn in. And the 2 teachers have also said they've absolutely loved teaching all the students, because they are so engaged, friendly, willing to answer questions and not worry about getting things wrong, because no one is judging them. So it's a really nice study community. Okay, so I think that's the end of the questions that I have seen. Just as a little round up, you are getting an email after this lesson, which will give you the link to the recording. You also will get a link to the Biology Study Club if you want to sign up. As a reminder, if you use the link from the email, then you'll get the current price and the biological mind maps and the biological diagram revision resources for free as well. But if you sign up after Monday, then you don't get the mind maps or the diagrams, and it will be the £60 or the £40. But if you sign up this time, it'll stay at that fixed price forever for you. What does the app include? Someone said. Oh, so I've got my phone here. Let me show you. Let me find it. It's basically like the study chat room bits. So communities. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. So here, let me take blurred background off for a second. Don't judge how messy my font is when I take blurred background off. Okay. Unblurred background. Okay, so here I have the study community. Mine has actually got more than yours because I have access to all 3 tiers, but you can click on the chat room. So let me go to the study chat room, for example. This is probably the most used bit by people because it's basically just like Messenger, because you can send messages, you can send a direct message, not direct, but you can like tag someone. But the advantage of the app is you've got you've got the study chat room, biology in the news, the reward leaderboard, support where you can like shout out other people for doing well, messages from the 3 different teachers about the different sessions. You can also access all of the live lessons on the app on your phone and the recordings. And you can see where you are on the leadership and see all the latest things that are happening, like a news feed. But I get notifications. So that's the big thing. If you wanted to ask me a question, like I said, I don't get all DMs coming through, and I silence Instagram after 7 p.m. But I don't do that for the app because obviously people are paying for that service. I'm not checking it all through the night, let me make that clear. But you're going to get a much more rapid response from me. Okay. Can I cancel anytime? Yes. So it is a pay monthly subscription. You can cancel at any time, but you don't then get your money back. So if you've paid for October and then you cancel, you don't get the October payment back, but you'll have access for all of the month you've just paid for, and then your subscription's ended. So yeah, you can always try it for a month, and if you think it's not for me, then you can cancel it, and then you've only used 1 month's worth. So yeah, it is cancel anytime. The Biology Club is an app. So the app, just to clarify, it's actually not called the Biology Study Club. So you can't download the app. You'll get when you sign up, you'll get instructions about it. It's actually called Kajabi Communities, but you get all these instructions. You get an introduction video talking you through how to access everything in the club. And if there's anything you can't access, I always organize a quick Zoom call with people, and we do screen share just to make sure you can find and access everything you need to. But yeah, like I said, the key thing is this club is about being supportive based on feedback. So if you are in the club, like I said, all the changes I've made this year were based on the feedback from the members. They all said they wanted more live lessons. They didn't find this bit as good. They wanted this bit. So it's just constantly evolving and hopefully improving to meet the needs of the members, because that's what I want the club to be. So hopefully I will see some of you in the club this week. If you do sign up today, then come to the AQA lesson tomorrow. That'll be with Mrs. Doyle, who is an AQA examiner and a teacher of AQA. She'll be running that session at 5:30. And if you sign up today, you can come to that lesson because you'll already be a member, assuming you're on the platinum, that is. And then you can come to my lesson on Thursday. And already this week, you would have been to 2 lessons. So are the pre-recorded sessions your YouTube videos? No, nothing on there is available on YouTube. So because you are paying for this, it's not something that is available for free elsewhere. So everything in the Biology Study Club is original to the Biology Study Club in terms of the videos. Now, obviously, some of what I say will be the same because if I'm teaching biology, the biology stays the same, but it's not literally the same as the YouTube videos. So no, you do get something different to what people get for free. Right, I think that's it. But if you do have any other questions, send me a message on Instagram. If you want to just double check and make sure this is right for you before signing up, then I completely understand that. So send me a message on Instagram. I now need to go and collect my kids from nursery, so I might not reply for a couple of hours, but I will get back to you at some point this evening if you send me a message. I hope you found this session helpful and you now know those 3 revision study steps to take, and you go and have a go at the revision party. I'd love to see your revision party, and let me know what music that you choose for your revision party as well. And I would absolutely love it as well if I do see any of you in the lessons this week. That would be amazing. if you do sign up, jump over to the study chat already and come and say hello to me. So you've come from this session. So it'd be amazing to see you over in the club as well. But for now, that is it, everyone. I hope you have found it helpful, and I'll see you soon on one of the many things that I will be doing.